Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we'll be doing something a little bit different. We'll be trying out our first flight in X-Plane 11. It's not actually my first flight in X-Plane, I have had the sim for many years now. However, I've only just picked it up again recently, as I found in the past that I had a lot of issues with the sim. I'm really glad that I did. I managed to get the sim working a lot better now with just a few free mods. I do still have some issues with it, but I've been flying the default MD82 and I've been having really good fun doing it, I have to say. Anyway, in this video we will be flying the default MD82. We'll be an Alitalia flight AZ1475 out of Rome bound for Venice. The sector itself will actually be very short, in fact we'll only spend around 5 minutes in the cruise. However, the video will be around 1 hour long as we'll carry out the full startup, having just pushed back from the ramp in Rome. We'll taxi out for runway 25 and then we'll head northbound towards Venice, expecting the ILS 04 right. As always, I'll try and make the video as realistic as possible. We'll run the flight with all the relevant checklists. However, I will just add a caveat that I'm as new to the MD82 as the next man. This video is very much watching me learn the ropes of the aircraft, but I thought you might enjoy watching me do so. As always guys, if you do enjoy the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And also, if you do have any tips or advice on how to fly the MD80, I'd be very interested to hear your feedback. Anyway, let's now jump into the cockpit of the MD80 and begin the flight. Okay, so here we are in the cockpit of the MD82. We just pushed back off stand 207. We are now ready for the start, so we'll run the start checklist. Crossfeed valves are open. Anti-collision light on. Transponder is set. Forward and aft pumps on. We'll just turn on the left and the right. As you can see, there's no fuel in the centre tank. Ignition selector will start on ignition A. Air conditioning supply is checked, positive pressure. And we'll start engine 1. So monitoring N2 spooling up. We'll wait for 20% N2 and then we'll introduce the fuel. There's 20%. Fuel lever on. And monitoring the engine run up. So there's a good start on 1. Start engine 2. And again waiting for 20%. There's 20%. Fuel lever on. And monitoring the run up. So good start on engine 2, ignition selector off, air conditioning auto, engine anti-ice not required, fuel heats not required, flaps will set flaps 11 for the takeoff. There's flaps 11, auto brake. Set to take off. Speed brake is armed. Flight controls. Are checked. And generators are on, the APU can come off now. So we are now ready for the taxi. We won't use the default air traffic control system. I don't really like it in X-Plane, I have to say. Air traffic control has cleared us for a departure off runway 25. So we'll swing the aircraft round to the left. Taxi light can come on. Let's say we'll come round to the left onto Echo Golf, and then it'll be right onto Delta to taxi and hold short runway 25. So we're all clear. This is taxiway Echo Golf, as you can see. There's no traffic coming down Delta, we'll turn right onto Delta. And we'll taxi down Delta, turn left on Delta Mike, and then hold short Bravo Alpha runway 25. The before takeoff checklist: warning lights are out, seatbelts on, landing lights will turn on when we enter the runway, same for the strobes. Annunciator panel is checked. Takeoff briefing: so it'll be departure from runway 25. Initially a slight left turn, then a right turn back towards the north, climbing straight up to flight level 280. We have speed, nav and altitude capture for the autopilot. We'll climb up to 1500 feet and then we'll accelerate for flat retraction. You can see looking at the windsock that we do actually have a slight tailwind off runway 25. However, that's what air traffic control hypothetically gave us today, and we ran the numbers. We are able to take runway 25. It's only a couple of knots tailwind, so it's not too significant. So takeoff briefing completed. APU and APU bleed are off. Crossfeed valves are checked. Open. Ignition selector. We'll go ignition on both. Exterior lights, we'll set those now just before we enter the runway. So landing lights are on, and the strobe lights are on. And the flaps are set for the takeoff 11 degrees. So the before takeoff checklist is complete. We're cleared for the takeoff. There's no traffic on final. It's runway 25. And we'll depart on the roll. So it's 50% N1, engines are stabilised, take off. Thrust set. 80 knots. V1, rotate. And positive climb, gear up. So we'll climb up to 1500 feet. There's 1500 feet. Just lower the nose slightly. Let the aircraft start to accelerate. And we'll come back on the power for the climb. Start increasing the speed. Excuse me, just reset the track IR by accident there. And we'll retract one stage of flap. Speed can come up to 250 knots now. And we'll engage the autopilot. Flaps up. We won't turn on the auto throttle for now, we'll manage to thrust manually. I find that the default MD82 is quite aggressive with its thrust control. So we'll manually control the thrust up until top of climb, and we'll engage the auto thrust once we're in the cruise. So the after takeoff checklist: autopilot is engaged, auto throttle is off, flaps are retracted, ignition selector can go off, auto brake is off, auxiliary hydraulic pump off, spoilers disarmed, and the taxi lights can go off. See after takeoff checklist complete. Bring the heading bug round just to align it with our course. And we'll declutter our nav display a little bit. We don't need all of that. The autopilot not doing a brilliant job of flying the departure there, has to be said. So 1013 on the altimeter. That's 10,000 feet, landing lights off, and we'll slowly start accelerating up to 310 knots. I won't accelerate too quickly, otherwise the autopilot has a tendency to just level the aircraft off, which isn't ideal. See the high terrain out to the east of Rome on our right. And we have the western coastline out on our left. So it's 310 knots now. Continue the climb at 310 knots. As I say, we'll manually manage to thrust until top of climb. Climb checklist, landing lights are off. There's no weather around, the seatbelts can come off now. Landing and runway turn-off lights are off. Altimeter is set. Sensor tank fuel pumps are off. Bank angle limiter we have set at 25 degrees. That's the checklist complete. Very dark there all of a sudden. So you can see we have a slight headwind on the route today, not much. TAS is 377, ground speed is 371, so it's about a 6 knot headwind. Very short sector though, so it's not really going to be very noticeable. And we're doing about 2,500 feet a minute, which means it'll be just over 10 minutes till the cruise. Top of descent is at 0913. Slight error in the box there, I presume that'll be 1013. About 15 minutes from now. So we'll only be in the cruise for around 5 minutes. As I mentioned, very short cruise section, but that'll be just enough time to enjoy some of the en route views. As it's a very short sector today, we'll actually just get most of the aircraft set up for the arrival now. Expecting the ILS 04 right Zulu into Venice. The ILS is 109.95, which we have tuned already, and course of 040, which we also have set. Auto brake, we use brake medium for the arrival. And the MDA is 210, we'll set that now. 210. We'll continue the rest of the setup just before top of descent, and we'll brief the arrival then as well. So it's less than 10,000 feet to go, 2,000 feet a minute now, so that's about 5 minutes. Rather a nice island off to our left there, I'm not quite sure which island that would be. I'm sure most of you are aware I've used Ortho 4XP for the scenery. I have to say I'm really impressed. The scenery comes out a lot nicer in X-Plane than it does in P3D, which makes a lot of sense. Obviously the program is designed for X-Plane, and also I think X-Plane does tend to display crisper scenery textures than P3D does. Starting to leave behind the high terrain now. You can see that there is still a little bit of high terrain ahead, but it's not so significant. There is some high terrain to the north of Venice. MSA is around 7,200 feet. I guess that would be the start of the Italian Alps. Come back to the legs page. I have to say I've really been enjoying my time in the default MD80 so far. It'd be nice if the autopilot had a touch more functionality, but overall it's really nicely done. It's certainly considerably better than the default jets in Microsoft Flight Simulator at the moment. I do have a few gripes with X-Plane though. I found that the weather system is really sort of subpar compared to even the likes of P3D, so definitely would like to be able to improve the weather system. I know there's Active Sky for X-Plane, and certainly I'm looking at getting that. But I find that the general weather textures as well are really poor, like even the clouds. I'm actually using an add-on already here. I'm using SkyMax Pro, but even then I just find the clouds look pretty lackluster. The other issue I have with X-Plane is the lighting. I find that the colours can be quite drab and, as you can see, sort of a bit bleak looking. It's a lovely clear cavalcade day here, and still things just look a little bit washed out and a little bit dark in the cockpit. I presume there probably is some sort of lighting plug-in that you could use to improve that situation. If anyone does know of one, please let me know down in the comments. I'd be very keen to check it out. Headwind just increasing slightly still. And coming up on 25,000 feet now, so another 3,000 feet to go. Not quite sure why the times don't match up in the MCU versus on the clock, but won't be too worried about that. I think the distances are accurate, that's the main thing. And 2,000 feet to go. Important that we keep an eye on our altitude since we're managing the thrust manually. We don't want to overspeed the aircraft once we capture our altitude. Now we'll just quickly run through the flight plan, make sure that we do have what we're expecting so that we know our top of descent is correct. So the flight plan should take us out towards Otgig, and then from Otgig, lattice for the ILS-04 right. So that looks correct, it's one to go. Just about to turn over waypoint Sovan. And there's out hold on the autopilot. So we'll start coming back on the thrust. That looks about right, we'll engage the auto thrust now. So speed 310, nav and out hold. Just set the heading bug once again. We are now in the cruise. As I say, the aircraft is already almost set up for the arrival, but we'll take some time now to enjoy the rather beautiful countryside, and then we'll come back just before the top of the descent for the setup and the briefing. So welcome back to the flight deck. Hope you enjoyed the views of the Italian countryside there. Again, we'll just finish getting the aircraft set up for the arrival, and then we'll brief the arrival before we start our descent. As you can see, about 18 miles to run now, just over 2 minutes before top of descent. So once again, expecting the ILS 04 right Zulu for Venice. It's plate 50-3. ILS is 109.95 and the final approach track 040. Aerodrome elevation 7 feet. There's a profile check at 11.2 DME, 3,000 feet. MDA is 210, which we have set. And the misapproach climb runway heading initially, then a right turn climb to 3,000. MSA for the approach today, 7,200 feet out to the north and 1,600 feet is relevant for us. It's a nice day for the weather in Venice. There's a slight wind from the northeast which suits us onto runway 04. It's Cav OK. Landing on 04 right, we use auto brake medium and idle reverse. And fuel, we're expecting to arrive with about just over 5 tons of fuel. The minimum fuel we need for Bologna is 3 tons, so we'll have nearly an extra hour's worth of fuel on arrival into Venice. One minute now until the top of descent. Not quite sure why SimBrief gave us so much extra fuel there. Maybe it's just that the default MD80's fuel burn figures are a little bit off. Anyway, we'll commence our descent. We'll come down to 8,000 feet initially based on the higher MSA in Venice. So it's 8,000 feet, ground speed 450, so we'll set 2200 for the descent. So that's all checked, we'll engage vertical speed now. And down we go. So it's vertical speed, and we set 8,000 feet. Come back to the legs page. Tracking towards Ogapu now. And we'll just have a quick look at the arrival. Looks roughly correct. We already checked it obviously in the legs page, so we know it's what we're expecting. So passing through 25,000 feet, expecting to see 100 miles to run to Venice. 122 miles according to the progress page, so we're probably a touch low now. We'll ease off on the descent rates. Just check the legs again, make sure it is correct. Well, gig, lattice, and then the ILS 04 right, so that should be giving us accurate data. Lovely clear day, as you can see, in northern Italy. Not a cloud in the sky. You can almost already make out at least the bay that sort of Venice is in. And tracking towards waypoint Neiman now. Should be taking us more or less direct to Venice. At 23,000 feet, 92 miles we should see. So about 18 miles more than we need at the moment. But we are slowly trending back onto profile. Right now the lighting isn't looking too bad, I have to say. It's quite bright in the cockpit. Again, it's just a little bit drab outside for my liking. As I say, I'll look into some sort of a shader mod, see what I can find. Just wondering if that's might be Bologna Airport. Bologna's our alternate today, I'm not sure if that's Bologna or not. Should be able to see on the navigation display, really. I know Bologna's just up ahead of us. Roughly our 11 o'clock. Not really sure which airport that would have been then. Bologna's just there on the ND. In fact, we're almost passing a beam right now. So 91 miles to run now, just coming up on 20,000 feet. Still a little bit low. And we'll turn the seatbelt signs on. Descent checklist, approach briefing has been completed, seatbelts are on. Altimeter will set transition altitude. Auxiliary hydraulic pump go on. And the windshield anti-ice is on. Comms and navs are set, the ILS is tuned. It's the descent checklist complete. You can quite clearly now see the high terrain out to the north of Venice. Still not quite convinced by this distance to Venice though. If we add up our legs, we've got 3 miles to Nivum, 13 miles, 19, let's call it 41, is that 47, 51? So I think we're still actually a bit high here. I'm not quite sure why that distance is incorrect, so we'll keep coming down. Lattice is... I'm not even sure this nav display is correct actually. Tune the VOR at Venice, that'll give us a better idea of our distance to run. It's 115.3. Yeah, 46 miles to run versus 74. Yeah, I'm not quite sure that distance is correct. We'll work off the direct distance for now, otherwise we'll end up finding ourselves high. In fact, we'll descend a little bit faster if we can. Yeah, you can already see Venice basically, so we're definitely a little bit high here. I think the distance to Venice here must be including the missed approach. Can't really see why else it would be that inaccurate. So 15,000 feet, 1530, yeah, still pretty high. And in fact we'll increase our descent rate even further. We'll take some speed brake. Lets us. Yeah, just do it manually. Miles to Otgig, okay, 24 miles now, 30, 34, yeah, it's a good job we intervened there. Don't know why it's wrong though, it's a shame, it was working perfectly fine the other day when I tried it. And we'll start going back to 250 knots for 10,000 feet. Just ease up on that descent rate to allow the aircraft to slow down. Just going up on 10,000 feet, speed's good, landing lights can go on. Keep the speed coming back. That will come all the way back to 180 knots. Speed brake's still out, should help us slow down. So you should see about 36 miles to run, we're still high. That's 1,000 to go. We'll come all the way down to 3,000 feet now for the ILS. A big bit of weather pop in there. Just ease off on the descent rate, allow the speed to come back so that we can get the aircraft a little bit dirty with some flap. So 8,000 feet, 26 miles, not too bad. And we can start taking some flap at 280 knot. So we'll go flaps 11 now. Yeah, that distance was just way off. Well, at least we caught it anyway. I'll have to look into that though. It's a shame, like I said, I was pretty happy with how the aircraft performed on the test flights I've done so far. And we'll go heading now. So 003. That's heading. Go into VOR for the nav. There's the ILS, 20 miles to run, 612. Okay, we're not too bad on profile. Keep the speed coming back. We'll arm the ILS. It's glide slope. Would have thought we'd see Loke as well. Okay, that seems to do it. It says ILS. Maybe you have to arm the Loke first in the MD80. It's 5,000 feet. And we're looking better on the profile now. So we can start really reducing that descent rate, get rid of the speed brake. Yeah, the progress page still showing 45 miles to run, obviously incorrect. But again, at least we caught it, so no major dramas. It's 1,000 feet to go. Speed's good. We should capture the localizer at waypoint lattice. A little bit hazier in Venice than I was expecting. Doesn't really look cav-OK to me. And about 13 miles to run now on the ILS, so the profile's looking good. You can see the localizer just starting to come in. And the glide slope's moving as well. Flight plan is sequenced. Here comes the localizer. Can't quite make out the airfield yet. So there's Loke. And glide slope. 3,000 feet for the missed approach altitude. And we'll set 040 for the approach. Okay, we'll take the gear down. On the spoilers. Speed can keep coming back to 160 knots. And we'll set landing flap. Go with 28 degrees. That's 28 degrees set. So approach landing checklist. Speed brake is armed, flaps are set. Speed, just leave for now, we'll come back to approach speed in just a second. Ignition selector, go both. And the auto brake is medium. Is the landing checklist complete? You can see the runway now quite clearly, 04 right. Just correct the heading bug to account for the wind drift there. Just passing overhead the outer marker. Yeah, progress page still saying 32 miles to run. Like I said, I can only assume it's just accounting for the missed approach as well, which is rather unhelpful. And we're stable. Just trying to set our eyes on Venice before we land. Okay, we'll take the auto throttle out. Control the speed manually. And disconnecting the autopilot.
Autopilot.
It's checked.
Minimum.
Continue.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Okay, coming back on the thrusts. A little bit of float here. Let's touch down. Go full reverse just to get the aircraft slowed down since we floated so long. And we'll take the second exit. So manually braking. Coming off the reverse thrust. Vacate next left. So vacating at Golf. We'll cross runway 04 left and then we'll taxi over to the terminal. My taxi chart for Venice is pretty outdated. They've obviously done a lot of work, and again we won't use the air traffic control system, so we'll just make our own way over to the terminal. Let's go on the approach 04 left. So the after landing checklist flaps are retracting, the speed brake is retracted. APU will start. Landing lights can come off. Click spots are a bit fiddly. And we'll just go back to position lights. So the APU is running. We'll leave it off the bus for now. we'll turn it on when we get onto the gate. I've actually flown out of Venice many years ago just as a passenger, but can't say I really remember what the airport looked like, to be honest. I just remember it being quite bizarre because you get a boat taxi to the airport. Keeping a good lookout as we come onto the apron. There's obviously a lot of vehicles moving around. Definitely be a sad day to be hit by a vegan food truck. And we'll just take this gate here. It's like gate 326. And taxi light can go off. No marshaller or any guidance, so we'll just guesstimate where to stop. Should be about right. So park brake is set. Put the APU on the bus, and the APU bleed can go on. Shutdown checklist. Nose lights are off. Auxiliary hydraulic pump is off. APU's running. Fuel cut off. Anti-collision light off. And the seat belts can go off. Fuel forward and aft pumps off. Didn't quite get the cut-off lever there on engine number 2. Windshield anti-ice can go off. Flight directors off. Transponder to standby. And that is the shutdown checklist complete. So there you go guys. As I said, I really enjoyed the flight in the default MD80, and now I'm really warming towards X-Plane 11 as a sim, much more so than when I last attempted to use it. With a few free mods you can get the sim looking and behaving really nicely. Again, my big grievances that I still have with the sim are the weather and ATC implementation, so if anyone has any advice on how to improve either of those areas, I'm definitely all ears. I'd be very interested to get some feedback. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. That really helps the channel to grow, and I really do appreciate the support. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And once again, if you have any tips or advice on how to fly the MD80 or any other aspects of improving X-Plane 11, please let me know in the comments. That's all for now. Thanks very much, and I'll see you all again soon.